Way back when, Neanners released this. Pomp, a catchy song for sure, yet it makes you feel like you got put on a list just for hearing it. And it should, because it causes moral degeneracy, and creates lolicons. But enough about that. This video contains spoilers for Morbius. Do you like memes? I bet you do, seeing how you're watching a Morbius review quite a while after its initial release and disastrous second run. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone likes a good meme, myself included, which is why I decided to watch Morbius in the first place, and partially the reason I wanted to talk about it. But before I do, here's a quick rundown of what the movie's about. Jared Leto and his childhood buddy, Matt Smith, have a rare blood disorder, so he does science shit with vampire bat DNA, fusing it with some human DNA in the hopes of maybe finding a cure for him and Matt Smith. The science shit works when Jared Leto tries it on himself, and it also gives him superpowers that let him morb. Matt Smith finds out and wants to morb too. But Jared Leto says, "Nah bro, morbing sucks." But Matt Smith really wants to be able to morb, so he steals a vial of the morb juice and somehow manages to administer it correctly off screen.
I am a scientist. It's so cool, son of a bitch.
After which he ends up morbing too hard and becomes the bad guy. Culminating in a showdown between him and Jared Leto in which he's defeated because Jared Leto learns how to bat bend during the fight. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. If I had to describe how I feel about this movie in one sentence, it would be something like this. The people in decision-making positions cared about making a good movie about as much as the authors of erotica isekai novels care about the characters and their stories who are not the main character. Which is just a roundabout way of saying I don't think any fucks were given by the people who made this movie. Here's a couple of examples of what I mean. People in this movie don't behave anything like actual people. Here's some extras going about their business when two Nosferatu-looking blurs zoom out of nowhere and smash into the ground in front of them. And they just kinda walk around them. Not running and screaming in panic, but skirting around them like they're a couple of nerds coming to blows over whose waifu is better. The movie also establishes that Morbius needs blood or he'll lose control and morb too hard as well. See? He clearly needs blood, and is on the precipice of morbing all over these detectives. But then in the very next scene, he's totally in control and fine. No problems here. And for Exhibit C, when Morbius first injects himself with the morb juice, it appears to need to go into a very specific part of his spine, but when Matt Smith's character steals it and uses it on himself, he does so off-screen. This is an issue because the movie establishes that he is not very familiar with the details of Morbius's experiment.
Is it dangerous? Should I be worried?
Yet it implies he knows exactly how to administer it. Or does he just put it into his arm or something and the spinal injection Morbius did was just for, giggles, I guess.
That's it, bingo.
Oh yeah. Morbius also takes over the underground lair of some counterfeiters, and they happen to have the necessary equipment for Morbius to conduct cutting-edge biological experimentation. That, seems kinda...
Not scientifically possible!
It feels like the writers wrote the script for this movie without any kind of outlining or planning, sort of like a school project that was rushed the night before it was due. I imagine their writing process went something like this.
And then Morbius fights evil Morbius, and then the police come. But evil Morbius kills them, and then Morbius flies away. And then Morbius talks to lady side character. Who dat again? She gotta be girl Morbius later. And then Morbius says he's Venom.
But I suppose it is not fair to only blame the writers for this one. The director, Daniel Espinosa, could have done something about it if he wanted to. But he seems to have cared about this movie about as much as my 8th grade teacher did about grading book reports for Catcher in the Rye. Speaking of bullshit, the tone of this movie is so bizarre. It feels like they initially wanted the movie to be a more lighthearted comedy thing, kinda like Venom, but decided to make it more serious during editing. Like in the trailer, there's this line.
I am Venom. I'm just kidding, it's Dr. Michael Morbius at your service.
But in the actual movie, they cut out the part after he says, "I'm Venom," making it sound kinda like a joke with no punchline. But this is only half the problem, because despite them cutting out moments that could have been interpreted as comedy, they chose to keep in some of the lighthearted bits, like this strange scene with Matt Smith dancing. What the fuck is happening? That said, I actually liked Matt Smith in this. He deserved a better vampire movie, like David Tennant, the other Doctor Who alumni, got, instead of being trapped in a movie with method actor superstar Jared Leto, who is a bit of an enigma to me.
My dog stepped on a bee.
I feel like Leto's performances are always either terrible or great, with no middle ground. Like on one hand we have Dallas Buyers Club and American Psycho, while on the other hand we have Suicide Squad and Blade Runner 2049. His performance in Morbius landed on the garbage side of the coin.
I can't control it!
Which I wasn't too surprised by after his, interpretation of the Joker. However, it was surprising to see how little self-awareness he has when it comes to internet culture. I am of course referring to when he tried to capitalize on the tsunami of memes making fun of Morbius, of which Sony also tried to do by giving Morbius another run in theaters. The disastrous results of Sony's misreading of the internet happened because they did not understand something very important, that everyone's essentially laughing at the people who made Morbius, not with them. This distinction is important because it means that people don't actually like Morbius, they like to make fun of Morbius. Let's take a look at something else people love to make memes about, but actually like. Metal Gear Rising is undoubtedly weird, over-the-top, questionable in its philosophical implications, and very flawed. Yet it's still held in very high regard by many and is still relevant 9 years later. I won't get into everything that makes Metal Gear Rising special right now, as that's going to be its own video later down the road. But a brief explanation of why people love this game is because of the intentionality and planning on the part of the developers of Metal Gear Rising, Platinum Games. What I mean by that is that Platinum Games went in with the full intention to make Metal Gear Rising a crazy over-the-top spectacle with sick music, bizarre characters, cheesy lines that somehow work, philosophical rants, and a bit of political trolling. And they planned for all that accordingly, putting in the effort to make it all work. This resulted in the creation of something fun, or dare I say something good even. And is why when people make Metal Gear Rising memes, they're laughing with the developers, not at them. This lack of intentionality and planning on the part of Morbius is simultaneously the reason people aren't laughing with the people who made it and why it's a shit movie. Thankfully though, like a bad meme, Morbius will eventually fade into the realm of, oh yeah, and hopefully we'll continue to see soulless garbage flop, while projects with real heart put into them get the recognition they deserve. And who knows, maybe in the future we won't devote $75 million to dumpster fires like Morbius. So, is Morbius good?
2学期ずっとこの席だとストレスで胃がはちらせになるわ